There are moments when silence speaks louder than words, and there are moments when words are sharper than any weapon. Johnny Depp has always been known as an actor who disappears into his characters, but when it comes to his real life, he is a man who has learned the hard way how to deal with toxic people. And recently, the way he put it, the way he drew the line, left fans stunned. His message wasn't sugar-coated. It was raw, brutal, and so unapologetically honest that you could almost feel the sting of it. For years, Depp has been a magnet for both adoration and criticism. Hollywood loved him, the media obsessed over him, and the public judged him. At first, he took it all quietly. He laughed it off. He kept his head down. He let the world talk. But life has a way of teaching lessons the rough way. When people you trust turn their backs on you, when rumors become louder than truth, and when strangers feel entitled to decide who you are, that's when boundaries are born. Johnny Depp's message to toxic people is simple. Enough is enough. And the way he framed it is what made it savage. He said, in his own words, that he owes nothing to those who thrive on drama. He owes nothing to those who feed off negativity. He doesn't need to defend himself to people who were never on his side in the first place. It's not anger, it's not bitterness, it's clarity. And that clarity is brutal. What makes this moment powerful is the fact that Depp isn't preaching theory. He has lived it. Imagine having every part of your personal life dissected in front of the entire world. Imagine being painted as a villain, mocked, cancelled, abandoned by companies, dropped from franchises, and treated as disposable. Most people would break. Most people would crawl into a corner and never come back. But Depp, he chose to rise. He chose to stand in the fire until the smoke cleared, and when it did, he walked out stronger. He doesn't just call out toxic people. He exposes them for what they are, parasites, people who don't want solutions, people who don't want peace, people who survive by keeping others down. And his savage response isn't about shouting back or seeking revenge. It's about drawing a line so sharp that it cuts them off completely. That's why he said with unshakable conviction that he doesn't live for anyone's approval anymore. If someone's loyalty depends on gossip, then that loyalty never existed. If someone's respect disappears when you're at your lowest, then it was never respect at all. Fans around the world have connected to this because it's not just about celebrity drama. It's about life. Toxic people exist in every circle, friends, family, co-workers, even strangers on the internet. And too often, we give them power. We let their words control us, their judgments define us, their negativity weigh us down. But Johnny Depp's message is a wake-up call. Stop feeding them. Stop letting them drink from your energy. Build walls so high that their poison never reaches you. And here's the thing. Boundaries are uncomfortable. They're not polite, they're not gentle, and sometimes they make people angry. But boundaries are the only way to protect your peace. Depp made it clear that he's no longer playing nice for the sake of appearances. He isn't explaining himself, he isn't begging for understanding, and he isn't waiting for forgiveness. From people who never cared about him, that is what makes his message savage. It is the art of saying no without apology. In interviews and public appearances, you can hear it in his tone. He speaks slowly, carefully, but every word carries the weight of experience. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't scream, but the firmness in his voice says it all. He has reached a point in life where he knows who deserves his energy and who doesn't. And if you fall into the second category, his door is closed for good. What makes this so fascinating is how fans have flipped the narrative. The same man who was once mocked is now being celebrated as a symbol of resilience. Social media is filled with clips of Depp's words, with people calling them motivational, savage, and inspiring. Because let's face it, we all secretly wish we could cut toxic people out of our lives with the same brutal honesty. We all wish we had the courage to say, "I don't owe you anything." Johnny Depp is living that truth out loud. Think about the impact of that. How many of us have stayed in relationships, jobs, or friendships because we were afraid of hurting someone else's feelings? How many of us have let people walk all over us just to keep the peace? Depp's message is proof that peace doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from protecting yourself. And if someone can't respect your boundaries, then they don't. deserve access to you. His story is a reminder that survival sometimes looks like solitude. It looks like letting go of people you once loved, of places you once felt comfortable, of opinions you once thought mattered. It looks like being misunderstood, judged, and even hated. But on the other side of that is freedom. Freedom from drama, freedom from fake loyalty, freedom from the constant noise of toxic people trying to pull you down. And this is where Depp's message cuts deepest. He doesn't care anymore. He has stopped fighting battles that were never his to begin with. He has stopped wasting energy on people who can't be saved. He has chosen himself, his peace, and his truth. And that choice is something we can all learn from. The next time you feel cornered by someone's negativity, remember his words. Remember the strength it takes to look a toxic person in the eye and say, no more. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You don't even need their understanding. What you need is your sanity, your dignity, and your boundaries. That's the lesson Johnny Depp has put on full display. So when people call his message savage, they're right. But let's pause here for a moment and really think about what the word savage means. Most people hear it and instantly think of cruelty, harshness, or unnecessary aggression. But Johnny Depp's message is living proof that savage doesn't mean cruel. Savage means strong. It means fearless. It means having the courage to stand tall when the easier option would have been to shrink into silence. Savage means knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to let anyone cheapen it, no matter who they are or what power they think they hold over you. And that's where his stance becomes inspiring. Johnny's words weren't just about himself, about Hollywood drama, or about what he personally went through. His message to toxic people isn't tied to one moment in time or one individual. It's bigger than that. It's about all of us. It's about the universal truth that sooner or later, every single person will encounter toxicity, whether it's in the form of a so-called friend, a manipulative coworker, a jealous family member, or even strangers on the internet who think they know you better than you know yourself. His words are a reminder that protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. When Depp drew the line and made his stance public, people didn't just hear an actor speaking. They heard the voice of someone who had walked through fire, who had been burned, and who finally learned that survival doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being unapologetically firm. It comes from recognizing that toxic people are not just annoying, they're dangerous. They drain your energy, twist your truth, and blur the line between who you are and who they want you to be. And unless you cut them off, they will keep feeding on you. That's why Johnny's message resonates so widely. Because let's be honest, we've all had those moments where we tried to keep the peace at our own expense. Maybe you stayed in a relationship that was hurting you because you didn't want to upset the other person. Maybe you agreed to things you didn't want just to avoid confrontation. Maybe you let someone disrespect you over and over because you hoped they would change. And yet deep down, you knew the truth. The more space you gave them, the more they took. Depp's response to toxic people is savage because it refuses to play that game. He's not begging for understanding, he's not offering explanations, and he's not sugarcoating anything. He's saying, clearly and without hesitation, that the door is closed, and once it's closed, it stays closed. That kind of finality is what makes people call it brutal, but maybe it's not brutality at all. Maybe it's clarity, wrapped in honesty, delivered without apology. And if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. Boundaries are not walls to keep love out. This is where so many people misunderstand the concept. They think that putting up boundaries means you're cold, unkind, or unwilling to connect with others. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Boundaries are shields to keep poison out. They are the filters that protect the parts of you that deserve to remain unbroken. Your peace, your dignity, your self-worth. Think of it this way. If you leave your house unlocked, anyone can walk in. Some people will be kind guests, others might cause harm. So you lock your door, not because you hate people, but because you value your safety. Boundaries work the same way. You're not rejecting love, you're protecting yourself from harm disguised as love. You're drawing the line between chaos and peace, between weakness and strength. Johnny Depp's message shows that once you learn to draw those boundaries, life becomes quieter, it becomes stronger, it becomes infinitely freer. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day? A life where we can breathe without constantly looking over our shoulders, without carrying the weight of other people's negativity, without feeling like our worth depends on someone else's opinion. Now, let's be honest. Drawing boundaries is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It feels harsh. It feels like you're cutting people off or hurting them. But the truth is, people who genuinely care about you will never be offended by your boundaries. They will respect them. The only people who get angry when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from you not having any. And that's exactly what Depp is calling out: the leeches, the users, the manipulators, the ones who thrive when you stay quiet. And here's where his message becomes universal. He's not just speaking to Hollywood. He's speaking to you, to me, to anyone who has ever dealt with someone who drains the life out of them. Maybe it's that friend who always calls you only when they need something. Maybe it's the colleague who takes credit for your work but vanishes when it's time to help. Maybe it's the family member who disguises cruelty as just. Being honest, these are toxic people, and Depp's brutal clarity is a reminder that you don't have to keep them in your life just because you've known them for years, or because you feel guilty, or because walking away feels too hard. So, yes, his message was brutal, but maybe brutal is exactly what we need, because soft boundaries are too easy to break. Polite maybes and "I'll think about it" are too easy to ignore. Sometimes the only way to make a toxic person understand is to give them nothing. No response, no energy, no entry into your space. That silence, that's the loudest, most savage response of all. And let's not forget, this isn't about becoming cold-hearted. It's not about shutting everyone out. It's about being intentional. It's about saying, I decide who gets access to me. And when you finally take that control back, life changes. The drama fades, the noise quiets. You start to recognize who truly values you and who was only there for what you could give them. And the weight of carrying toxic people finally lifts. The truth is, the most savage thing you can ever do to toxic people is to stop giving them space in your life. That is the deepest cut, the sharpest edge, the one thing they cannot stand: being ignored, being shut out, being irrelevant to you. Because toxic people thrive on reaction. They live for your energy, your time, your emotional response. Take that away, and suddenly, they lose their power. Johnny Depp's journey shows us that boundaries are not cruelty. They're freedom. And freedom sometimes is savage, but savage in the best possible way.